So this video is going to show you how to get everything set up and installed to run the Fantasy Grounds import of Foundry VTT maps with line of sight. I'll cover various other processes and details in some other videos, but primarily this video is just what's going to get you set up and started. And once you've done all of this setup, there's a couple of technical steps in it, but once you've done all of the setup, you should be good to go and be able to export maps from Foundry and import them into Fantasy Grounds. So here's a brand new installation of Foundry. You need to install the application, and the gotcha with that is that you will need a license for Foundry. I haven't found a way of working around this without having a license. If anybody can provide me some information of being able to do that without a license, that would be great, because we're not going to be actually using Foundry to run anything. We're purely using it to export maps that we already own ourselves. But the first step as part of this is we just need to grab some information that we're going to use as part of our setup. So if you go to the configure, and we actually just want to copy this user data path. So I'm just going to copy that into just a blank notepad, just so we have that for reference for later on when we're going to actually be sending a link from the Fantasy Grounds directory into the Foundry directory. And we'll also use this directory for where we're going to install some maps. So first thing that you need to do when you load up Foundry is we need to install a system. I'm just going to do D&D 5e. It doesn't really matter. I'll just install that. Like I say, it doesn't really matter what system we install. Just we need to load up a Fantasy Ground game world with a system, and add open maps within that to allow us to export them to be used as part of the Fantasy Grounds importer. So once you've installed a game system, we can create a game world. So I'm just going to Fantasy Grounds map. That's map export. And just select our game system and create that world. And now all we need to do is just load this up. First, and you'll just need to select Game Master. You're going to join the session as the Game Master. And once we're in, this is our new game world, and we need to manage our modules and open modules. At this point, we don't actually have any modules installed, so we're now going to go through just the process of installing a couple of modules and opening them. So you can get Foundry maps from quite a few different places. I primarily support a number of cartographers on Patreon, and as part of that, some of them are heroic maps who actually, as part of their Foundry level, also give you drive-through RPG codes to permanently own their products on drive-through RPG. There's also others that might give you, might synchronize their products into your account, into Foundry. You'd link your Foundry account with Patreon, and you can bring them in that way. There's others that also just provide you with a JSON manifest file, a URL, that allows you to import the modules that way as well. I'll be covering that in other videos. I just want to get up and running and just show you the basics to get everything going here. So what I'm going to do is show you how to manually install a module file within the Foundry directory. So what I'm going to do here is there's a couple of ones here that I've got that I've got ownership through Patreon. So I just need to download the zip file. I'll download the sci-fi one as well, which is a sci-fi base. So we can have a couple that have been downloaded. And here are those zip files. If I just open the zip file, you can see within this there's a directory with various media that has the map images, themselves that are actually going to be used. And there's some sound as well, and various data that's actually used by Foundry itself. So what we actually need to do is we need to unzip this directory into the Fantasy Grounds VTT directory. Now, we've already taken a copy of that directory, so I'm just going to copy that, and I'll open another Windows Explorer, go to that directory, and I need to go into the data modules directory and just unzip this actual directory into here. So that's that done. I'm going to do exactly the same with the other file that I've downloaded as well. So the abandoned base. So here we have that directory as well, and I'll just unzip that into the Foundry data modules directory. Now that we've done that, we just need to essentially restart the game world so it can actually read which modules are available to us. And now we should, within the module, manage modules, we can open those two modules there. Save the module settings. Foundry is going to want you to just restart to reload those modules. And now that it's come up, we have our various maps, there are two map modules that have actually been installed here. So you've got Plague House by Day, so you need to right click on that and select Import Entry. And that's going to load that map up in Foundry. We can actually see that it's got quite a few different line of sight entries on here. And these are the things that we're going to be exporting as part of this process. There's a couple of lights as well, things like that. There may even be some, can't tell if there's any audio files on there. So that's imported. You can see it's on the scenes, the list of scenes on the right-hand side here. If you're somewhere else, you can always come to the scene entry. You click on that, it's going to show you some information. But if you right-click on that, we need to export the data. So this is going to save a JSON file, and what we want to do is we want to go to that directory that we'd stored in our notepad. First, we want to go into the data directory, and what we want to do is we just want to create a new folder in here. We can call it really whatever we want. I'm just going to call it FG Exports. And then within that directory, save your JSON file. You can change the name to whatever you want, really, but essentially, I'll just keep it as the standard file name. It's just telling me, it's right, Maps Plague House. So that's cool. That's good enough for us with that. I'll go through as well quickly, just doing the same for the sci-fi file. So the Fortuna abandoned base, we need to right-click on that, import the entry. Go to the scenes view and view the scene just to see what it looks like. So that's a pretty cool sci-fi base there with all of the LOS. And right click on that, export the data, and it's going to remember where we exported last time, so we can just save that JSON file. And that's it. That's all we actually need to do as far as Foundry is concerned. We've gone through the process of setting up the installing a couple of modules here. We've created a new FG map exports So in FG exports, I think that previous one's from when I've been doing some previous exports. I'll just delete that so I don't get confused. We've got a couple of JSON files in there that if you actually open these up, they're pretty big with lots and lots and lots of um, data about the base module, the base image to use, and all sorts of various things about lights and walls and all of the information here that actually Fantasy Grounds is going to import to create the image in Fantasy Grounds. So we can close down Foundry and we can open up Fantasy Grounds. So for this, I've just created a core RPG campaign with the Foundry VTT map JSON to FGLOS extension actually enabled. But before we do that, what we want to do is we want to make a copy of the path for the Fantasy Grounds app directory. So to get to that, I just clicked the folder icon in the top left of the FG launch screen, and we'll just save that in here. Because what we're going to have to do is we're going to actually have to make what's called a symbolic link in this directory, the Fantasy Grounds data directory, to this Foundry data directory. The reason we need to do that is that Fantasy Grounds security won't allow the application to access any files outside of this directory structure. And we're going to have, and we're reading that JSON file that I just showed that is going to be accessing JPEG files or image files within this Foundry VTT directory structure. So we need to add kind of a link to that within Fantasy Grounds. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a process that's going to kind of allow us to create what's known as a symbolic link. Just doing a shortcut isn't good enough. That's not going to work. It needs to be what's known as a symbolic link, and we're going to make a directory that's a symbolic link to the Foundry directory within the Fantasy Grounds directory. Now this is a standard command in Windows, and as well it should be the same in similar in Linux and Mac OS. I haven't tested this on either of those. I've only tested this on Windows. So we're just going to use the make link syntax. We're going to use /d to make a directory. We're going to create a name of a directory, and our target's going to be the Foundry actual path. To do this, we need to be in a command prompt that has administrative rights. We need to open a command prompt, so we just kind of come down to our Windows start typing command, comes up with a command prompt, but use run as administrator. We need to run it with administrative rights. So you can run that, and now once we've got that, we just need to go to our Fantasy Grounds directory within there. So I'm just going to copy this path, just do CD for change directory, paste the path in. We're going to be within Fantasy Grounds, and now here we're just going to make a link, use that make link command /d. We're going to call it Foundry data or something like that, and we need to link to the actual Foundry directory. So again, we'll just take a copy of the Foundry directory itself, go back to our command prompt where we're within the Fantasy Grounds data directory. So make link /d. I'm going to call it FVTT is going to be the new directory it's going to create, and it's going to be linked to that Foundry data. I think I just need to put quote around that path. And it tells me symbolic link created FVTT. to the Foundry VTT directory. So if I go to my open my Fantasy Grounds data directory. Here we now see this symbolic link, FVTT. You can see the icon showing you, and that takes you to the actual the Foundry data. Notice the path is still within Fantasy Grounds, but it's a link. And if we have a look in data, we can see our FG exports are in there, and those JSON files would have access to the data, within those installed modules. So this is what we need to do to, get everything up and running. We've got our symbolic link created within the Fantasy Grounds application data directory. So the next thing we need to do is just load campaign. Just load a campaign up with, that you're going to use the maps in, or you could create a campaign that you import a few maps in and then you can export a module. Again, just, adhere to copyrights here. You can only use this information for personal use unless you get actual permission from the cartographer, the owners of the copyright and everything else. So if you are creating a module, export it for your own use. Don't redistribute it by extracting data from Foundry to redistribute as a Fantasy Grounds module, unless you have permission from the copyright holder to actually do that. So, but I'm just doing it in Core RPG. We have this extension ready to be loaded, and we'll just load into there. So now we're loaded up. We can see that our Foundry VTT map JSON to Fantasy Grounds LOS extension has been loaded. And what this does is it adds another button to the images window. Down here, this is your normal import, but for Foundry VTT to FG, there's another button here. I may change this icon in the future. I'm just using a standard button. But if you click on that, what it's going to do is it's going to take you to find some JSON to actually download, to import. So I'm just going to go to my Fantasy Grounds directory to navigate to that FVTT. Once you've done this, it's going to remember this directory. So gone to data, to FG exports, and here we've got the JSON file. So we just select the JSON file, and that's going to go through, process that, and hopefully, if it works, it's going to create a new image with the name that's contained within the JSON file. It's going to create the layer there with the new image, which comes with all of the line of sight from the Foundry export, a couple of lights in there as well within there. So you can see that, on a play layer, that would actually work. I'll just quickly create a character so we can there you go. Any old portrait will do. Them in Combat Tracker. Didn't mean to make a copy there. And then we can drag that token to the map. We don't have any lighting on it right now. So actually, I'll just add a lamp as an effect to that token. And as we move the token around, we're going to see, the light and obviously the line of sight appearing as we move around. Got to open those gates to go through, and that's all set up. It will also have imported the grid settings that are on there. You may just want to change maybe the opacity or the color of that grid. to make it a little bit more relevant. And yeah, you can, as you can see, that's a pretty quick import once you've done the export with the various LOS, and as you can see, lights as well within there. So I'll show you that again for for that sci-fi one that we did. So click on the export button. You see it remembers where you were last time, so it's just going to go back to the same place every time. We're going to open this map. Yeah, it can take quite a while to actually bring that through because, as you saw, there's thousands of lines of data that Fantasy Grounds is going to be passing through. But there you go. That's a pretty cool map. You can see the LOS, the various doors and everything that have been created on there. And if we open on the map and preview the lighting in LOS, we can see obviously that that's all imported and that's all working pretty well for us there. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. I'll be going through other videos showing the other ways of loading modules into Foundry and exporting and using them in Fantasy Grounds.